podcast is based out of Detroit. Now, you being from the Colorado area, give the young viewers and listeners a little bio about yourself, please.
Okay. My name is Carlton Hurst, obviously, like you said. I come from a background of sports. Just it's pretty interchangeable. I juggled kind of a lot of things growing up. When I originally came out and everything like that into Colorado, I was actually born in Michigan. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was born in Ann Arbor. My other side of my family is actually from the Michigan area as well. So we ended up coming out to Colorado where my grandma, and she's from here. So I originally grew up in Park Hill. That's where I went to elementary school at. And then I ended up going to middle school in Aurora at South Middle School. And then I ended up going to Aurora Central High School. And then that's where I kind of finished out. Then leading up into CSU, then I transferred to the University of South Dakota, where I ended up getting my undergrad degree at.
Okay. Now, Carlton, we got another guest that's also going to be joining you. He's logging in now. So, wow, you're actually originally from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I would have never, ever guessed that.
Yes, sir. Well, I was born there, family from that part, within that area. So, yes, sir.
Now, as I'm about to introduce our second guest, I'm going to try to share some footage that I really that really stands out in my mind in just a minute. Now, Dominique Washington, ladies and gentlemen, is Dominique Washington, our other guest. Dominique,
what's up?
So, tell us a little bit about yourself for the viewers. The viewers are not familiar with
you. Again, my name is Dominique Washington. I'm a Canton, Michigan resident. Grew up out here. Former athlete, current business owner, entrepreneur. Own a cleaning company now, and I started a wine company at the start of the year. So now, just taking some things I learned, with growing up out here in the burbs, playing sports, playing basketball, football, taekwondo, and starting to put that into the business world, look for the same type of results, working hard, playing hard, having fun, and, make sure everybody's taken care of. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. And now, Dominique, we have Carlton Hurst. Carlton, just want to introduce Dominique to you right quick. Carlton, I actually saw Carlton when I was doing some high school coaching when I moved out to Colorado.
Okay.
And this was like around 2013, 2014, and we were getting ready to play Aurora Central. And I was telling the coaches, I was like, you about to play against the dude that dunked over the 6'8" guy that jumped over him? You're like, nah, he graduated. He's headed to Colorado State. Oh, I was like, okay, good. So
right.
I first see Carlton's highlights. We were scouting his high school team. He jumped and dunked over a 6'8" shot blocker who also probably had a 40-inch vertical. So I had never seen that. Even growing up in Detroit, I've seen a lot of athletes on the court, but I never actually on a high school level seen a dude jump over a 6'8" guy and dunk on him. And Carlton, you're about what, 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah.
So Carlton, you're not considered like a giant by any stretch of the imagination at all. So that was just I wanted the young viewers to kind of get you guys' athletic backgrounds as we move towards what you guys are doing off the court. We want our young men and women to know that there's life beyond basketball or entertainment, especially our young people of color. It's okay to do more than play ball or play a respected sport. You have other talents and gifts outside of that. That's why I wanted both of you gentlemen on the show today.
Exactly. I hear you 100%.
Yes, I do too. Yeah.
So now, Carlton, when did you realize that you wanted to do more than just play basketball? Like a 40-inch vertical is great, but when did you
It
realize you want to do more than just basketball?
it happened to me early. I went like the school that I went to, the elementary school that I went to in Park Hill was called Smith Renaissance School of the Arts. So they encouraged a lot of the young people at a young age to do art, to do band, to do things outside of what was originally popular at the time, which was the sports. So originally, what I ended up doing was I was in art class, and I told my mom really early on that I wasn't really interested in it, and I wanted to join band. So I ended up taking up band, ended up learning how to play an instrument and everything like that, and I carried it on throughout all elementary school and middle school, actually. And I was really good at it. I ended up being like one of the best players to play it and stuff like that. But one of the conflicts that I ran into a lot of the time is having interests outside of basketball, because it really conflicts when you're a good athlete and you do things like band and, things of that sort, which are unpopular. So I kind of had a difficult time dealing with, do I hang out with the cool kids or do I kind of go, do other things and like hang out with some of the band kids? Because I am, a musician as well. So things of that sort. So for me, it happened at an early age, like when I got introduced to things. My mom wasn't strictly sports. She introduced us to a lot of things, and then she let us decide from there what it is that we wanted to do. So I was fortunate that way.
Okay. Now, Dominique, when I first met you, obviously
Hmm.
you're much younger than me. I met you in Canton. Um,
Hmm.
that's a suburb, for those that don't know, a suburb about 30, 35 minutes outside of Detroit. You were already like 6'5", 6'6". You were a high school hooper, very well known in the area. And so
Hmm.
your reputation kind of preceded itself when I first ran into you. I already knew who Dominique Washington was, but I'd never actually seen you face to face till that one day at that Canton Rec Center, the Summit. Now,
Yeah.
when did you first realize that you wanted to do more than just play basketball?
Man, I don't know. It took a while, man. It probably 1920. So I ended up going down to U of M Dearborn, and I was on the basketball team. But the year prior, I was doing a little bit of basketball, doing a little bit of coaching. Middle school, I went back to Discovery middle school that I went to out here in Canton, Michigan, and I coached. It was fun. I like telling the kids to get online, go run, 6 sprints suicide. Then I went and played at Dearborn the next year, and I'm like, this isn't fun anymore. Like, I'd much rather coach. At the time, it was like, I'd much rather tell somebody else to get on the line versus me getting on the baseline and running. So actually, it started off like that. And then when I hit like 2021, I was a full-time basketball trainer, full-time basketball coach. I just basically hung up the shoes. I was still playing, rec ball, but as far as playing collegiately, as far as trying to, look to go over season play, I was good coaching and training. I love teaching, the youth, the up and coming, the ropes and how to do, what don't to do, what not to do. So I would say like 2021 is when I realized that, what, it's more to life than playing basketball, right? Then I got into, like I said, coaching, training. And then when I hit like 23, 24, I had the privilege of, I was the head varsity coach at PCA, Plymouth Christian Academy, small class C school. And some of the parents I was around, they were entrepreneurs. Growing up, my father, he owned his own companies. But again, I'm a kid, I knew took care of the family, but I wasn't hands-on with it. But when I turned like 23, 24, I started to see these families, kind of be able to do what they want to do. Not only, just the moms are involved with the kids at school during the daytime, but the dads were there. I'm like, how the world is this working? I sat down with a couple parents and like, listen, this is what you need to do. And from like 25, I started my own cleaning company, got my own LLC. Then that's when I started to realize that life was bigger than just hoops. So I knew basketball, it's the playing side, then it's the coaching and training side. So I transitioned from playing to coaching. Then that's all I knew at the moment. And then when I started talking to these other people, and they started putting me on game about, just being an entrepreneur, starting up your own businesses and running them successfully, then that's when my mind started to gravitate to, you know what, there is life after, hooping. So.
Yes. Yes. Now, now, Carlton, you have a few books that you've published. I believe it's Through Our Eyes,
Mhm.
Successes of Heart, Broke Genius, and Imagine to Manifest. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It is. Yeah.
Now, if I remember correctly, after you were done, well, so you played at Colorado State, transferred to South Dakota,
And then I
um,
played in
Mexico,
Jakarta
was it?
last year. Indonesia last year.
Indonesia. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, Indonesia.
So I
Now,
played.
how was your experience overseas? Like, not just the basketball part, but like learning like a different culture, just being exposed to a different.
Oh, it definitely is eye opening. I was fortunate enough to play for a team that was very family like oriented. So they put a lot of emphasis on treating everybody well, doing well by the team, doing well by the people. They weren't trying to jerk anybody around. They let me explore outside of just basketball as well. Like I got to, eat a lot of their food, go to some of their places that are kind of historically known. I just got to make a lot of good connections over there. And I think the one thing that I would really say that I took away from it that was just completely different was how much they embraced just being themselves and just being Indonesian people. And it just really stuck with me, I think, more than a lot of other things, because I just feel like a lot of people, in the U.S. kind of separate, but when they feel like you're family, they're really going to embrace you. So that's one of the biggest takeaways I got from that.
Okay, definitely respect and appreciate that, especially person like me. I was born in Ghana to Ghanaian parents from West Africa. So when I moved here, I've been around New York, Brooklyn area, Detroit. I've been in the state of Ohio. I've been around, and just having the culture, the family side, like that always kept me grounded. Even I was in the military, going through some difficult moments in life. Just having that whole culture, that family culture, was a big part of my development growing up. Now, Dominique, what advice would you have to the young men, young women out here that's going through barriers, whether it be racism, discrimination, prejudice, and just as far as what they have to do in order to succeed in life?
Always keep a positive attitude first and foremost. I mean, without a positive attitude, uh, climbing those hurdles, they become so much higher when you really don't have a positive attitude. You don't believe in yourself. When you allow some of that noise to really get to you. So thick skin, positive attitude, and keep your head up and keep grinding. I mean, whatever it is you want to do, just go for it, because you're gonna have a lot of people tell you no. You're gonna have a lot of people tell you out of your mind. You have a lot of people look at you funny. You're gonna have a handful of people, say, hey, we're rooting for you. So definitely embrace all of it, not just people that are rooting for you, but embrace the people that are telling you no. Use that as motivation. And again, for myself being a former athlete, and we're all athletes, we all thrive off, you know, the negative stuff like, oh, you don't think I can do this? Oh, I can't dunk on this foot. Like, yeah. And that's how I still carry myself to this day. But for the youth today, I mean, with the social media, it's so much. It's a gift and a curse. It's so easy to see the negative from people, reaching out to you, telling you what you can and can't do. But also, it's a great vehicle and tool to have to be able to see the positive and understand like, hey, this person that looks just like me, acts like me, talks like me, they can do it, then I can too. That's my advice to the youth.
Appreciate that. Now, Carlton, all the way from Aurora to was it Fort Collins, and just going from Colorado State to South Dakota. What advice would you give our young men and women as they work towards pursuing higher education at the college level, as far as like the barriers that may be ahead of them?
I would say one of the biggest barriers that me and some of my close friends had going from an underprivileged school to, up into the college setting, I would say is be more mindful of your resources, be picky about your time and who it is that you're talking to, because those things really matter. And because the curriculum is not as hard usually in underprivileged schools, you have to get accustomed to the workload. So getting accustomed to the workload, knowing what works for you, learning what strategies that you need to use in order to learn, because everybody's different. I think one of the biggest takeaways I think from college is just learning how to critically think. And that's one of the biggest takeaways that maybe if you spent more time, on the next level, like, okay, what is it that I'm trying to identify? What is it that I'm trying to get out of this? Instead of being like, I don't really like the class, this isn't really for me. Like, figure out what your takeaways are from all that time that you're putting into that university, because you're there 4 years. You may as well have certain strong takeaways. Maybe it wasn't every class, but there was those certain classes that you're like, okay, I'm going to actually use this in the real world and see how it's going to apply to when you actually leave college. So I would say be more mindful of how much time am I spending on this work and how is this actually going to push me into the direction that I want to go into once I actually do leave college.
Okay. Appreciate the jewels that both of you have dropped here on this podcast. And the main emphasis on this podcast is providing our young men and women in Detroit and even beyond Detroit positive role models. Is one thing to hear life lessons from mom and dad or grandma, but it's another thing to see people that's outside your household, that's successful in life on their own level, not necessarily P. Diddy owning like a $2 million record label, but guys and women that are out here getting it, so to speak, being successful and productive, honestly. So I appreciate both of you for coming on the Heavy Brand podcast. Facebook page is at IG Reality TV. We air every Saturday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I want to thank both of you gentlemen once again. I want to salute y'all.
Perfect. Appreciate you having us.
Take care, y'all.
All right. Take care, guys.